Okay, hey guys, so this is the ninth part of the Minecraft mod tutorial 1.6.2. This time I'm going to be doing vegetables. I'm going to add an onion that you can grow, and grow with bone meal and stuff like that into the game. Just a little update on the chest lid. It's just not working at the moment. I've not really had much experience with all the graphics things that you use for the chest lid, and it seems to me that the changes from 1.6, from 1.5 to 1.6 have made it even more complicated, and I can't seem to get it to work properly. So I'm not going to put out a video on something that's not working. So I'm going to try and get that done as soon as possible, and I'll put it up whenever it's done. Not sure when that's going to be though. Okay, so let's get started. So I'm going to add an onion. I've got some textures here that you need to create. So here's the onion. That's the item. There's the seeds that are going to grow the onions. This is when you put them in the ground. So you need for the actual crop block, you need two different textures. One for when you first plant it, and for things that just grow in one step like this, like onions are gonna. You just need one for when it's ready. So those are the four textures I've got for the onions here, and they're in the textures items and textures blocks folders like they usually should go. Okay, so let's get going. Okay, so I want to start here, so let's just do that. Okay, so I want to add a new class. So first we're going to create the actual onion item. So it's going to be the thing that you can use to eat and stuff. We're not going to make it you'll be able to eat it yet, because that's food and stuff like that, and I'm going to put effects in that. That's going to be the next tutorial. So I'm just going to make the onion just now, so let's just call it onion. I'm sure there's not a class in Minecraft called onion. Okay, and I'm just going to make it extend item at the moment. Need to import that as well. Just usual stuff here, nothing really different from what we're used to. So let's just make the constructor. Whoa, that was crazy. What the hell happened there? Okay, right. Anyway, so we want to call super on the ID. We want to, let's set the max stack size to be 64 for these onions. We want to set the creative tab. I'm not going to put it in my own tab because I'm going to put it along with all the food. So it'll just stick it into the vanilla food tab. Just makes sense really. And unlocalized name as usual. Localized name. Onion. Okay. That's that. Nothing new here. Okay, register the icons for the texture. Whoa, icon register. So we're just gonna make the item icon, and same as you do. Oops. Mod, same as you do for everything else, and this is going to be called. This file is called onion. Okay, simple. That's just an item that we're going to deal with in the next tutorial. It's just so you can have something in your hand when you harvest the crops. Okay, so I guess the next thing we should do is deal with the seeds. Just going to call it onion seeds. Okay, so for seeds, I've seen quite a lot. There's some tutorials where you've just got these seeds that kind of extend. They don't extend. Sorry, you just call it by the item seeds that Minecraft already has, and that way doesn't work with the new textures because of all the resource packs and stuff. So you actually need to build it like the class iSeeds is, but you need to do it yourself. You can't just use the item seeds thing like you used to be able to do. So you want it to extend the item because it is an item, and also you also want to implement something called iPlantable, and that just make sure you've got all the things that you need for the seeds to work properly. So I'm just going to go through all the things that we need in this class. There's not too many. It's not anywhere near as big as the classes we've done before, so shouldn't be too bad. Okay, so we want a constructor. Onion seeds. This constructor is slightly different from the items because it takes a couple of other things as well. So it takes an ID. It then takes the ID of the parent. So it's like the crop that I'll make sure I'm. It's the ID of the crop block. So if we're making an onion crop, then when you make onion seeds, you need to put the ID of the onion crop into there. I'll just call it parent ID, and then it also needs something with the soil ID. So this is the kind of thing that it gets planted on. So we're going to plant it on the tilled grass thing. When you put a hole onto a bit of grass to make it into the kind of farmland thing. So that's what we're going to do there. Anyway, so as usual, you want to super it in there, and we want to do the same kind of things we just did. So set max stack size 64, set creative tab, oops, I'm just going to put it in food as well, just keep the seeds and the thing together. Set unlocalized name, onion seeds. Okay. Then want to register the icons, so it's the exact same things we just did. You do get used to writing all this stuff after you've registered quite a few of these. Right, import icon register. There we go. And item icon, register icons, and I've set that to be onion underscore seeds, I think. Yeah, I'll leave it at that, and if it goes a pink and black texture, then I'll know that I've got that wrong, but I think that's what I called it. Can I check actually before I go on? Onion underscore seeds, yeah. Excellent. Okay, so that's done the icon. So now we need to tell it what we do when you use the item. So when you right click with the item, you need to. This is what method that gets called. So public boolean method, and it's called on item use. So that's what happens when you right click with an item. So the first thing it takes is an item stack. Oops. It then takes the player that right clicked with the item. It takes the world, and then it takes a lot of other things. So you've got your int x again, int y, int z, and then you've got all these random things. So par 7 it starts with, float par 8, par 10. Okay, so that should be 10 things. Item stack, player, world, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Yes, okay. The reason I've called all those just par 7 to par 10 is that most of that comes from all the vanilla code, and you hardly ever know what those mean. And we're just going to use them exactly how the vanilla Minecraft code uses them. Okay, so let's go for this. So quite a lot of this stuff is taken from the seeds class, because we're basically making a copy of the seeds that we can use for our own things. So you need to test if this par 7 is not equal to 1, and if it is, you want to return false, and that's just in every seed class that I've found. Okay, and else if, and then you want to do player.canEdit. Okay, so this is saying if the player can edit the block. I would assume that you're trying to right click on. So you give it X, Y, and Z, this par7, which I'm assuming is probably the metadata, and the stack. Okay, so that's that bit. What's going on here? Method can edit. Oh, can player edit. Sorry, I missed out a word there. Can player edit. Okay, so that's the first part of it. We've got another part to add in here, so we need a double and sign to say and player dot can player edit, and I'm going to move this down here so that we can all see it. Okay, don't take any notice of these parameter things, that's just something that's been added in. Okay, then we want x, x, and then you want y plus 1, so it's the block above. So what that basically says is, can you edit the block that you're trying to place the seeds on, and can you also edit the block above it where the seeds are going to be placed in, like the crop? So it just makes sure that those blocks are available to you. X, y plus 1 for the block above it, and z. Par4 again is going to be the metadata thing. No, sorry. Is it? I'm confused. Yes, par7. There's too many parameters here. And stack. Okay, so can you edit both of those? Go into the block here to do the things to it. So now we want to get the ID of the block that we're the block in question. So let's call it I. I want to world.getBlockID. And then we give it X, Y, and Z. And then with this ID, you get this ID because you need to work out what's under it. So I'm going to call it, we need a block, and I'm going to call it soil because I know what's going to be under it, equals block dot blocks list. So this is the item. Inside the block class, I'll actually go and show that just now, just before we go any further. Inside the vanilla block class, down the bottom, I think it's down the bottom now, it used to be up the top. Where is it? Is it down here? No, damn it, it's moved. Where are we? I'm looking for just, here we go. And that's items list, never mind. Can I find the blocks list? Where is it gone? Ah. Okay, the blocks list is somewhere, I can't find it in there just now, but the blocks list is the vanilla list of all the blocks that exist. Yeah, that's been there since I think the game started, and you just need to get the ID from there, because the ID goes up linearly. So say block soil, the int I was 1, so it would get the first item in the second item, because it starts at 0, and I think that is dirt, so I think that's probably going to be the one that we're looking at. Okay, so we can't just assume that worked, so we need to actually make sure that this soil is not null before we do anything to it. And we need to make sure that the soil is what we think it is. So we want something called can sustain plant, and this actually just tells you if this block can have a plant on it. So we want the world, that's fine. X, Y, Z, that was fine. The direction is a forge direction, and that's the way in which the plant's going to grow. So the plant's going to grow upwards. Using this, you could make plants grow downwards, but that would be quite... I'm not going to go into that because, frankly, I don't know how to make them go down properly. At the moment, I've not really done too much of plants, so... And actually just... You take an iPlantable, and it's this, which references this class, so the onion seeds. Let's import forge direction. Okay, so that says, can you sustain a plant in this world at this location going upwards? And this plant. Okay, we're not done here. And, oops. And also, you need to make sure that the block above where you're going to plant this is air. So world dot, and you can just do is air block. There we are. And you want to take the x, y, and z coordinates out. X is fine. Y you need to add 1 to it because x, y, and z reference the block that you're planting on, so you want to make sure the block above it is air. So that's fine. So if you can put a plant on the block and the block above it is air, so it can go into it, then what we want to do is set the block to be the cabbage crop. Now that's the main part of this. It's when you use the seeds on the item, it actually spawns a block into the world, and that's what we're doing. So you want to do world dot, and there's something called set block, which just lets you put a block wherever you want. You want to give it the x, the y plus 1, because you want to put it in the air block above it. You don't want to put it in the soil, because if you put it into x, y, and z, the soil will disappear and you'll be left with the plant. And I've not tried to see what would happen there, but I guess it would crash because the block under it won't be able to sustain that plant. X, Y, and Z for the position of it, and then you want to give it the actual block that you want to put down. Now, it's going to be... I don't know if I said cabbage yet. I'm getting confused between cabbage and onion, and I don't know if I've... Because I originally went to make cabbage for some reason, and then I changed it to onion, and I keep going to say cabbage every time I go to say onion. But anyway, so if I've said cabbage at any point in the last maybe 5 minutes, ignore that and think onion instead. You want to put the block, the crop block that we're going to do now. We haven't made a crop block yet because that goes in the main class. We do that last. So I'm just going to put in something that we're going to put in a minute. So tutorial mod dot, and then you want to put the name, the variable name we're going to give it to you. And we're going to call it onion crop, so I'll need to make sure that I remember that. And the block ID of the onion crop is what we want. That'll error until we put that in, but that's okay. Then what we want to do is we want to make sure that the item size, the item stack, is reduced by 1. So there we go. So you want to reduce the stack size of the stack of seeds. If you didn't do that, it would just be like playing on creative at all times. And then after that, we just want to return true because we did everything we were supposed to do. And then go outside this whole thing. So else if that whole thing, outside this, you just want to return false because if it comes out here to return false, we would not have been able to edit the world properly. And then also you want to come out, I think I've actually went too far out, haven't I? I've went too far out right away, yeah. First you want to put an else in here, because if you can't put the plant on the block, and the block or the block above it is not air, then you want to return false there. And then you want to come outside this else if and also return false out here. That's what we wanted. Okay, so we want to come out of that whole function there. So now we've got a couple more things to do, not very interesting things really. It's just kind of boilerplate stuff that you always have to put in because of these interfaces that you need to implement for all the plants and stuff. So let's go for this. So public enum plant type. So that's an enum is a collection of kind of things that you can order by number. It's like a list really. It's not nothing special. Enum plant type. So we're going to return a type of enum plant. and it's called get plant type. So this actually just tests whether the block is a crop or something different, because you can get like nether plants. They act slightly differently in Minecraft, so you need to make sure that it's not one of those. Just because it will start acting weird. So it takes the world and the X, Y, and Z coordinates, as you're probably used to now, but with all these methods we've been making. Okay, so I want to return an enum plant type, so I'm just going to return. So you want to get you want to return the type of plant that this is. Okay, so you want to return. Why have I got brackets here? We don't need that. So you want to return enum plant type, because that's the enum we want. And there you go. There's all the things that you can return. So that's all the kind of crops you've got. So we're just going to return crop, because there are different things that can happen, especially in nether blocks. They behave differently. So you have to make sure that you return the right type. So onions are just going to be, normal crops. So I have to do anything special there. We need to return the plant ID as well. Not sure why they need this. I guess it's just one method somewhere that they wanted a method here to use. So if you give the world X, Y, and Z, you want it to return the plant ID. So return tutorial mod, and it's called onion crop dot block ID. Simple. So you just return your ID of whatever you've called your crop in your class. And the last thing that we want to do is return the plant metadata. So public int get plant metadata, and yet again, as you'll see all the time, world X, Y, and Z. Plant metadata is just 0 because nothing's going on. Okay, so that's just done all of those, I believe. That won't moan about that anymore because we've implemented all the methods, but it'll moan about the onion crop because we haven't added it yet. Don't worry about that, we will do that in a minute. Okay, moving on. Next we need to actually make the crop block. So I'm going to call it onion crop capital O. Okay, so this is a block, so we want to extend the block class. It's been a while since I made a block. Oh, the chest was quite recent. Okay, I need to import block. Okay, so first thing we need, because we want this block is going to change the texture depending on if it's grown or not, so we need to do our kind of multi-texture thing. So it's kind of helpful that I did the multi-texture stuff before, but this time it's not going to be based on the side in the metadata, it's just going to be based on the metadata, because the metadata will tell us whether it's grown or not. So basically I need two icons here. So if you remember from the last video, it's a public static icon, and I'm going to call it ungrown icon. So this is when it's just planted, and we want another one. That's the grown icon, so that's when it's ready to harvest. Okay, there we go. Okay, that's all we need to do for that just now. So we need to go for the constructor, as usual, onion crop, and we give it an ID, as usual. So we're ID, and going to material, we're not going to do wood or anything this time, it's going to be plants, which means it will break very quickly if you hit it in survival mode. There's a couple of different things now that we need to put in here, because you want certain things to happen. So there's a thing called set tick randomly, and you want to set this to true. This means that let's see what I'm going to see what this actually says. Yes, there we go. That's exactly what I was trying to say. Sets whether this block type will receive random update ticks. So it's just because you know how the plants don't grow all at the same rate. That's just what plants do. And in Minecraft it does that as well. So this set tick randomly means it will randomly receive the updates to grow and stuff like that. And we'll deal with the growing in a little minute. The other thing we've got to do is set the block bounds, and I've taken this straight from the seed class, not the seed class, the class that represents the wheat in the ground, because it's quite hard to work out what's going on when all you've got is a lot of numbers. So set block bounds. This obviously sets the bounds, and what we're going to do is we're going to set it slightly higher than the actual block, so you can. It's slightly taller than a full block, and I'm just doing that because Seeds does it, and I don't want to change it just in case there's something up with that. So 0 for the first ones, and 1.0 for the. Basically, think of this as X, Y, and Z. This is the first set of block coordinates. So it's 3D. So you need 3 coordinates for each point. 0, 0, 0. This is the last set of coordinates. So it's X position 1 and Z position 1. So it means it will just be a square usually, as usual. But the height of it will be 1.5 times the block. I'm guessing the only reason I could really think for that to be like that is to stop you putting the block right on top of the crops. You wouldn't want to do that. You'd want to have at least another space before that. So by setting the block bounds to be 1.5 times higher than a block, it will mean that you can't put something straight above it. That's the only thing I can think of. But you don't want the block to be wider or deeper than a normal block, because that would make no sense. Okay. Couple of things before I get to the kind of main part of the class. I'm just going to get rid of these things right away, because this is the kind of things that seem to be needed but have nothing to do with it. So public access aligned BB, and it's called get collision bounding box from pool. Nice long name there for you to remember. Takes a world and an X, Y, and Z as usual. And all this does is return null. I guess that you need it just in case something calls this from your class and it will not know what to do if it does, but I've not really understood what that means. There's another thing called public int get render type, and this seems to be a magic number. Not found anywhere that tells me what this is, but it's just the number 6. There's quite a lot of things that I want to play around with and test and change and see what happens, but I just don't really have the time to go around and change all of that stuff at the moment. But if I find out something new, I'll make sure to put it in like one of the videos just as a small update for a minute or two. The last thing that's kind of weird is just to say that it's not an opaque cube. Public boolean is opaque cube. Whoops. And I want to return false from that. Okay. So that's just got all that rubbish out of the road. We want to register our icons now. Remember, we've got more than one, so you can't just set the item the block icon, similar to what we did in the last video with the multi-textured chest, but it's similar. You just, oops, come on. Okay, so instead of making the block icon, we're just going to register the icons we've got. Oh, it's bad spelling there again. Tutorial mod, and I'm going to call them onion 0 and onion 1. So ungrown, because this seems a bit weird calling them 0 and 1, but what I've made it for the crops is that the metadata has 2 values, 0 or 1. 0 is when it's not grown and 1 is when it is grown, and that's the same thing that happens with seeds, so it's easier to do that, and calling them 0 and 1 is just easier for me to remember. So that's the 0 texture when you've just planted it, so it's just kind of greenage down the bottom. And when it's grown, you'll see that the onion's kind of sticking out of the ground, just so you know. Just so there's a big enough difference that you can see. And I think grown icon, I called it. And want to do the same thing only it's onion 1. Oh, I forget to close the quotes there. Okay. Done.